Peace, good people. What's up, everybody? I hope you are doing well. I'm just gonna start like this. Put some damn respect on this man's name. Okay? Put some respect on his name. Frank Martin, the ghost, dealt with a wave of criticism following his dismissal of a fight with Shakur Stevenson back in September of last year. Now, as reported by Frank himself during an exclusive interview he gave to the lovely and dynamic Queens of Boxing Talk on their podcast, shout out to my beautiful sisters. Okay. Following the unmerited reproach he was receiving from fanboys the world over, he stated that the only setback and drawback that he found inexcusable and which ultimately prevented the fight with Shakur from going forward was the failure of Shakur and his team to negotiate the money that he was asking for. He wanted a little bit more money than was initially presented to him, and that Shakur and his team had refuted any possibility of making that come to fruition. Frank confirmed his stance on this issue again during his newly dropped interview on the Cigar Talk podcast. I'm not sure if you guys saw it. I believe it dropped yesterday. It was quite informative. Very, very good interview. And here again, Frank shared that he was more than willing to take the fight on. He was more than willing to do it, but that he wanted to be properly compensated since he was being asked basically to jump through a lot of hoops and hurdles that would have left him at a disadvantage, relatively speaking, coming in as the B-side basically to Shakur Stevenson, for example, having to go to Shakur's network to fight, having to deal with judges chosen and placed by Top Rank, along with some other prerequisites that were on the table, that he would have to basically deal with in signing that contract. He felt like, okay, well, I'm going to clearly be at a number of disadvantages. Just put a little bit more money on the table and we can make it happen. That basically was considered null and void and impossible to do from Shakur and his side, which was it's kind of understandable why he would, not opt to take that option if every aspect of the contract was going to be at a disservice to him. It wouldn't make sense to do it. He has to be met halfway at some point. If not halfway, then at least in some form that he could feel like he's being accommodated, at least in one aspect as well. So it makes sense to me. All right. Now, we all know the outcome of what followed. Okay. We know the subsequent outcome that followed after the negotiations basically fell through, right? Shakur went on a tirade doing his damnedest, his absolute damnedest to tarnish the credibility and heart of Frank Martin, okay? And the Shakur fanboys followed suit, okay? They went on their own frenzy calling this man a duck, saying he didn't want the smoke. He was afraid he was going to lose to Core anyway, and he knew that. That's why he backed out, etc., etc., etc. We heard it all following, the whole fall through of what really wasn't a negotiation at all. It was basically an ultimatum, and he had to basically take it or leave it. So what I want to know is, where is all the duck talk now? Where are all the calls, the alarms, the broadcastings on loudspeakers about Frank and his duckery? Now that Frank is fighting Tank Davis, as confirmed during his interview on Cigar Talk, though it has not yet been announced by the promotional teams, we know that it is happening. I'd like to pose this question. How is it possible that Frank could be a man without heart, quote unquote, right? A man without courage to face the likes of Shakur, right? How could it be all of these things? Be afraid to face the likes of Shakur Stevenson, but be able to sign on for and push to make a fight happen with Gervonta Tank Davis. The Tank Davis, the same man who is coveted as one of the most dangerous knockout artists in all the sport. How do you fanboys justify that? You fanboys really have been on one. Okay, let's keep it real. Now that it's pretty clearly solidified that this bout is going to be taking place, your soft asses are nowhere to be found. All the rhetoric, all the banter, the chatty-patty energy just vanished into thin air, huh? Y'all not going to say nothing? Right? The same goes for your ringleader, Shakur Stevenson, who, since going on his defamation promotional tour last year, declaring to the world and anyone who would listen that Frank Martin was a duck, a puss, anything but a man, right? Is also sitting quietly in a corner somewhere with every bit of humble pie in his lap. Frank Martin called it utterly disrespectful what Shakur tried so desperately to pull with his rant and with his smear campaign, okay? Frank even said that eventually, Core is going to have to see him as a result of all that talking he was doing, right? Shakur and his team wanted to lowball the hell out of that man, and it backfired like a motherfucker. Ain't that crazy? Because Frank, funny enough, the man who you boasted offering his highest payday to with that lowball offer, is now facing the face of boxing, quote unquote, right? And likely he is making what he tried to negotiate with you and then some. Ain't that funny how things work? Meanwhile, Shakur is still recovering from his underwhelming performance against De Los Santos, all the while trying to play the cleanup man with the very fans who were once calling him the boogeyman and who have now turned on him by the droves. Another interesting factor is that Frank is fighting a man who Shakur should have stepped to already, should have been stepped to as soon as he touched 135. Okay, so it seems to me like Shakur's ego, for whatever reason, outweighed his position and his mission. He thought he was the face of boxing for a moment, I suppose, right? He got comfortable and complacent with the hype that was being generated around him. Now, to me, after only 2 fights so far at 135, I'd hardly consider him eligible to assume such a posture. Okay? Let's not forget the belt that this young man picked up is only in his possession because after ducking undisputed with Devin Haney, Devin dropped the belts and moved up, leaving the titles vacant and up for grabs, young man. That's why you have a belt. That's why you claimed a belt. That is a vacant belt. You took it from no one. Okay? So let's say even so after assuming your title, you still haven't made any attempts to pursue Tank, oddly enough. I wonder why. Can we call that a duck or can we not? You let me know. Right? So unfortunately for you, Frank is on the job now with Tank. He's got it from here, young man. Right? That's what it seems like to me. But anyway, I'm looking forward to seeing this fight take place. It's definitely rife with possibility, energy, and excitement. It's a beautiful fight. Shout out also to Tank Davis, who is apparently giving boxing enthusiasts like myself, upon the accepting of this fight, a new hope for the prospect of legendary matchups to come. Some great matchups to be made are on the horizon. At least that's what I anticipate in seeing him take on a fight of this magnitude. Like I've said it before, I'll say it again. The sport right now needs this type of fight happening more frequently than not. This is a fight about skill versus skill. Okay, this is what I love to see. Generalship will rule in this matchup, and I think it's going to ultimately play a central role and who comes out victoriously. I can't wait to see it and to see both of these beautiful kings make their mark. This is what boxing is about. Fuck the exhibition. Death to the exhibition match in boxing. I want the real shit. I want the real warriors to face each other and, make these bouts count. That's what it's about. That's what I support. That's what I want to see. So we'll see what unfolds, you guys. I'm on to the next. Peace.